in the edit agency section, and we'll touch on that in just a minute. So that's a nice segue into the edit agency. Now we're going to go through the setting up of your agency. All right, so let's go ahead and click on edit agency. All right, and again, only administrators will have this. So once you sign up for CareSoft, some of this information will be pulled in, like your company address, phone number, etc. So that information will be pulled in. One important thing that you'd want to change is, what do you call your clients, right? So this is, I would say, definitely you want to change that. If it's individual, resident, client, whatever term you use, you'd want to put that, and just put the singular term of it, because it will automatically, the system will calculate if it needs to be plural or not in the system. Another thing you want to point out here, and this doesn't have to be done right away, but this is something you may want to come back to. There's that big report, the treatment plan, a ISP, IPP, or whatever that report is called. You'd want to name that here, because that is that report that will show here in the second report, the second link, right? And that way it's easy for you to know, okay, this is my treatment plan or my ISP or IPP or whatever that is. There are other items that you can use. So for instance, if you have a specific ID that you use in your agency, you'd want to call that as an ID label. If you have a secondary one, you can use that as well. But again, some of these you can come back to. I'd point out just a few more. So one is urgent notification emails. This is just the default email that will be used when you want to, your staff has an urgent item, they want to send it. This email will pop in just in case they forget that email. Now, they can actually type an email as well when they're doing that urgent notification, but it's helpful to put it there just so they have access to it. And some forms may require it, like the incident report, to make sure you have that all set up and have that all in place. Locations and facilities. So this is where you enter your locations and facilities. If you have multiple, you can enter that. My account settings. So this allows you to define what will show up in this My Account setting. So in this example, you can see your staff. They have access to, they can see their emergency contacts. They can also upload their signature. Again, you can also do real-time signatures, but you also have the ability to upload it as well. But they can't see maybe staff files, and they can't see maybe the staff checklist items as well. It's just up to you. But the defaults are typically what most agencies will use. Show hide forms. This is a very important section. This is how you define access throughout the system and as well as the forms. So if I open this section, what you see here, and I'll just point out a few forms that actually will allow me to explain this properly. So if we go down to, let's say, the progress notes, because this is such a widely used form and has the most functionality in our system. So if you see here, admins, managers, and staff have access to progress notes, which makes sense because typically everyone can enter a progress note if they're working with a client. Also notice here, progress notes has this custom field option. So with some of our forms, and we're adding more every day, you can actually add your own custom field into the progress notes. So you can add as many as you want, and you can decide what type of field they are. So in this example here, I've created this custom field called place of service, and it's a select box, meaning you can just select an item similar to this box itself. And here are the values that I want my staff to be able to pick from, right? And you can make it required or not. You can add many of these, as many as you want for this custom field. Now, on the right side, you'll see signature options and email options. Now, you can see here, in this example, I'm saying show the manager's signature, show the staff signature, show the resident's signature. Now, not all agencies require a resident to sign a progress note, but if yours does, you can enter that. And you can even have an option to show other signature, which allows you to actually have someone external sign a progress note. It will basically ask for their email address when you're doing the progress note, and then they can sign that. And then you can also make those things required. Like, okay, I want to require the staff signature. So this is all up to you, but that gives you an example. Now, another form, maybe let's say, for instance, if we go up to the medications form, notice this form has admins and managers. It doesn't mean that your staff cannot track medications on a day-to-day basis. That form is called the medication log form. But the medications is entering the medications in the system. In this example, your admins and managers can do that, but your general staff cannot add medications or edit medications, but they can actually do the day-to-day tracking. Also, you can see here in this example, they're requiring the staff signature as well as the resident signature. All right, we'll flip back over to this section a number of times during this discussion, just so you can so that it really kind of, I want to make sure it sinks in, and there are a few instances where it makes sense for us to flip back to it. So we will come back to this as we go through this demonstration. Now, if you see here, progress notes option. So our progress notes is not just a box where you just say, hey, the resident had a good day today. You can do that, and it can be that simple, but it also allows you to track your behaviors, your goals, your interventions, skills, doctor visits, and a number of other things. So this will allow you to decide, while I'm doing a progress note, what are the other things that I want to track? So I'll go ahead and open this up. And of course, in my demo instance here, I have all of these items checked. So while I'm doing a progress note, I can make sure I can track their goals, and the skills, and service log, and billing, and activity logs, and daily food intake, and vital signs, and resident counseling, and group therapy, and all these items. So I have the ability to say, hey, while you're doing a progress note, why don't you just knock all these other things off as well, assuming those things existed today, or those behaviors or etc. Happened. Now, you can also make those sections required. In order to make this section required, that's one of the challenges. If you make it required, that means your staff has to enter that information. So, for instance, if you made behaviors required, but there are no behaviors that day, that means your staff cannot submit the form because they have to select the behavior, or they're going to have to make something up. So, why would you even have this option? Well, there are some instances where it does make sense for you to have a section required. For example, some of our day programs use a service log billing functionality where that's how they actually get paid, meaning that if the staff doesn't say, hey, we spent 2 hours with this client, going to the doctor, then you won't get paid for it. So because the staff is maybe required to do a progress note, you have this service log billing option there. You make it required when the staff is filling out their progress note, they have to complete that section, and you can track the hours, etc. So if there is a situation like that where, for instance, an activity log or something else is required, you can also make that required. But in most often, you do not want to check that. All right. So service billing, I won't spend a lot of time on this. This is more of an advanced training, but I will cover it quickly. So what we have is that you can actually track things on an hour by hour basis in CareSoft. And this is a lot of day programs will use this functionality more so than our group homes. But you can define service codes. So you can just add new service codes if there's some specific type of service code that you want to track. And these are just kind of, okay, maybe you have one called doctor visits. And some agencies, these actually might be numbers, XYZ, because it's an actual service code that they're putting in. And you can just enter that. The monthly or daily billing is not as important because that's just how you want to summarize the information. But really what's important is actually entering the service codes that you want to track. And then you go to the settings as far as just how do we want to track this. First off, if you want to track the service code in hour by hour billing, you'd want to turn this on the progress notes. So I think that's something you definitely want to do. But then there are two options here. Do you want to track it with service code, or do you want to track it with service code and authorization code? So what's the difference? Service code, you simply go, you do a progress note, you choose the service code, you said I spent 2 hours with this client, maybe you might put the mileage as well and some additional notes, and you're done. And then we generate a service log billing report. You can export that information for your billing purposes. You can also track with service code and authorization code. What that is that you've now made it very specific. So each client will have a different authorization code, and they may get maybe 20 hours towards this, another 10 hours towards this. So if you track this option, if you choose this option for every client, you will need to go in, choose a service code, how many hours they have with that, and do that. And once those hours get used up, using the service log, it will say, hey, you've already used that information up for the month or whatever that is until you refresh it. So that gives you the ability to kind of track that at a more granular level. Most of our customers just use the service code, but that is an option. And then you have some restrictions. You want to enable the billing restrictions. Maybe you can only bill for 8 hours a day or 40 hours a week, or make sure your staff don't repeat and bill the same clients multiple times. So these are options that you can turn on as well in that service log billing section. Okay, so our report options. So these are the reports that you want your staff to see. So for instance, in this example, the agency checklist reports, only the administrators could see that because it's at the agency level, right? And you can decide, all right, managers, maybe the COVID report, this was a big thing a while back, but for HIPAA reasons, you may not want all your staff to see everybody else's COVID report because this is the staff COVID report, right? So that information there. So you can pick and choose who will see what report. Now, remember when you first logged into the system, there was that pop-up message that said, hey, there was an acknowledgement alert. This is where you define that information here in CareSoft. And you can see here, this was the message that we had displaying. And we say this one we want it to always display, and we want our managers, staff, and admins to see that. And then let's say, for instance, here's another example where, okay, we've got an admin and manager staff meeting on August 1st. We only want this to show during a certain date range. Obviously, it ends on August 1st, and only my managers and admins will see that when they log in. You can choose up to 5 of those as well. IP restrictions, this is a more of an advanced feature. Agencies that require staff to only use the system while they're in the agency, they can't use it on their phones, etc. They would enable this, but this is an advanced option. You'll need to work with your network administrator to verify that the IP address will not change, because if it does, your staff may not be able to log in because it thinks they're not at work, right? So that's something there. This is a new feature that we're working out the details on. This is only available to some of our customers, so we'll skip that for now. It's kind of a pre feature. Staff training and certifications. So this is where you list out the training and certifications that you want that you want to track for your staff. We create like this generic list here that you can delete and edit, but most agencies will put in a list similar to this. But you can add your own. You can delete the ones that we have here as well. You can rename as well. So basically, if you track, maybe your agency requires your staff to have CPR certification. Here's where you list the items. When you get to the actual staff record, you can choose, okay, the staff has this certification. You can even upload the certification, add notes to it, as well as say when it expires. And again, 30 days prior to that expiration, it will show up in that alert section on the home page. Same thing with staff checklist. Maybe you have a requirement to have a copy of their driver's license because they drive the staff or your clients around, and you need to make sure that their license is valid. You can upload that into the system. You can also set the date of expiration, and 30 days prior, it will start prompting you that, hey, this is going to expire. Make sure you get that information from your staff. Same thing with residents. If you have time sensitive items, you can list them here so that they can follow the same process. You can upload them for the resident, and again, 30 days prior, they'll show up. Also for agency. So just at a high level, things that need to happen for your agency. Now, since we are in edit agency and we're at the agency level, not only do we list the items here that we want to track, but this is where you would actually do the tracking for the agency items. So for instance, in this example, you can see here, tax renewal forms, maybe the date received, the date of renewal, and of course, again, prior to that. And let's just go ahead and change that. This is my demo account, so it will have information like this. But let's say, for instance, this expires, I don't know, let's say in December. All right, we'll say at the end of the year. All right, so that information now is added, updated. You can upload the files. So you can upload your existing tax renewal. You can also add notes. And this same functionality will be there when we get to the staff and the actual client record for their certifications and checklist items as well. Agency files. So now this is a cloud-based system. So you can create you have folders that you can upload files to. You can create subfolders and subfolders for those agency files. You can also do the same thing for staff files. You can also do the same thing for your clients or residents as well. They have their own structure. You can actually go there and pick a client, see the files that are uploaded. You can create folders as well for that. Security, this is sometimes used by agencies that share computers where you want to time out the sessions earlier and not save the password, so your staff will have to be forced to log in. This just prevents staff from using a shared computer and logging in as someone else and not realizing that they're updating their notes under another user's information as well. So that just basically reduces the session timeout. Useful links. So these were those links that I showed you here on the left side. You can put these links in, and that way your staff can have easy access to links that they may forget or websites that they might forget. Finally, what you want to do is upload your company logo, because obviously we want to print that out on the forms on CareSoft. So you'd want to make sure you upload your logo, make sure you hit submit form, and then you are all set. Matter of fact, I will go ahead and submit form in this case because I did change the one of the checklist items for the agency.